This is the fourth program in the series Our World, Their World. In the first three programs, we visited the penguins and seals in Antarctica, all the fascinating animals of Hawaii, and amongst others, the flying foxes and iguanas in Australia. Then it was on to the tigers in India. And last, the zebras, leopards, and lions in Africa. Now the journey takes us across the Atlantic to the New World, to South America and the large rainforests of the Amazon area. The rainforests of South and Central America are the home of a rich and varied wildlife, though it is almost invisible. Most of it is hidden in the treetops, like this howler monkey greeting a new day. This furry alarm clock can be heard for miles around. It has a voice that is completely disproportionate to its size. Another howler answers the call. This is the monkeys' way of telling each other where they are and to make sure that nobody enters their territory. The howler monkey has an enlarged throat with two bony sound boxes which give it this impressive voice. They can go on calling each other for more than an hour. It makes the domestic cockerel sound almost soothing. This choleric-looking fellow is the red Bakari monkey, just about to start its morning exercise, with a quick swing through the high branches, where it is joined by the small squirrel monkey. These tiny monkeys, as their name indicates, are about the size of a squirrel. They perform their daring stunts at more than 60 meters above the forest floor, using their tails to balance during difficult maneuvers. The skills required for these stunts have taken millions of years to perfect. The spider monkey, like many New World monkeys, has turned its tail into a fifth hand. It is called a prehensile tail, as it can be used for grasping. Very useful indeed. Being so well equipped, the spider monkey always has an extra limb, be it arm, leg, or tail, for reaching, grasping, or even feeding, or just hanging about. The howler monkey also has a prehensile tail, from which it can suspend for long periods. This type of tail is typical for the monkeys of the New World and is unknown anywhere else. In this new world, the wildlife has developed separately, and there are varieties and species here that are quite unique. The squirrel monkey has to make do with only 4 limbs, since it never developed a prehensile tail. But it is hard to imagine that any amount of extra limbs would make it a better climber than it already is. It does perform amazing tricks. It is this ability to climb that made it possible for the primates to take to the trees in the first place. The trees are safe from predators and full of food. The only problem is that a single slip could mean a fall of more than 50 meters. Tough, even for a monkey. The squirrel monkey does occasionally come down from the trees to feed. They sometimes gather in large groups, numbering as many as 500 monkeys, catching land crabs and beetles. When on the ground, the squirrel monkey often stands upright to be able to spot danger. Again, this may have been one of the reasons why man became a biped, that is, 2-legged. This garter snake is not poisonous, nor particularly dangerous for the monkeys, but its mere presence is enough to send them clambering back to the trees. Like people, some monkeys are frightened of snakes and other reptiles. Like most monkeys, the squirrel monkey lives in highly organized groups. They follow an established food path through the tree tops, are very sociable animals, and are rarely found alone. With all the food available in the trees, leaves and fruit and much more, it is surprising that the squirrel monkey ever bothers to leave. Amongst squirrel monkeys, the babies are carried on the mother's back, even while she eats, and they stay there permanently until they can look after themselves. When the mother decides that a young squirrel monkey can look after itself, it does not always meet with the youngster's approval. Sometimes the baby just won't grow up. After all, this business of climbing in trees can be positively dangerous. As with humans, twins sometimes occur, and the job of making them independent is twice as hard. One can hardly blame the youngsters. The rainforest is a strange place, and the frightening noise of the howler monkey does not make it more inviting. The Vakari is the angry old man of the rainforest. His hairless face is typical of this species. It is also the only monkey in the New World that has a short tail. Although the massive fur makes it look quite big, it is actually not much bigger than a domestic cat. Despite the short tail, the Vakari is an outstanding gymnast and swings from tree to tree with a great deal of ease. It will even use branches as catapults to obtain longer jumps, quite a speciality. Like all monkeys, the Vakari enjoys the exercise and will travel from tree to tree just for pleasure. However, hanging upside down can sometimes be useful when collecting its favorite food, fruit and nuts. It will also occasionally eat birds and small mammals. This Vakari is not trying to rid itself of an itch. Rather, it is marking itself with the scent from a gland on its chest. It will also use urine to mark both its territory and itself. Swinging on this branch is not a preparation for a jump. This Vakari is very angry. If it feels threatened or its mate is in danger, it will attack anything, no matter the size or shape. Protection of the species is the most important thing. The thin and delicate branches at the very top of the rainforest is the home for the smallest of the New World monkeys, the tiny marmosets. This white-lipped marmoset is only about 20 centimeters long. They do not live in large troops, but in small family units ruled by a dominant male. The marmoset will scurry up tree trunks with ease. Unlike the Old World monkeys, they don't have nails, but instead claws, which give them better traction in the trees. The New World monkeys do not groom as much as other monkeys, but the marmoset is an exception. So, groom me, please. These golden lion marmosets are gentle and lively, like most marmosets. Unfortunately, this has made them very popular as pets, and they've been caught in big numbers and exported. Though this trade has diminished over the last few years, it hasn't stopped altogether. It is quite normal for the male marmoset to participate in the protection and rearing of the young. The female normally gives birth to 2 babies at a time, and the father will carry them on his back for the first few dangerous months, only giving them to the mother for nursing. When the young are weaned, the male still continues to help find food for them. As is normal in the tropics, night comes quickly to the rainforest. The night is a time of danger for the monkeys, who must still stay out of reach of predators. At least the squirrel monkey can be nice and cozy, rolled into its own tail, while others display a more nonchalant sleeping habit, like the vakari draped peacefully over a branch more than 75 meters above the forest floor. This is the owl monkey, the only monkey that is truly nocturnal. It is well named with its very big eyes that give it excellent night vision. The owl monkey stays in hollow trees during the day and has a very thick coat of soft fur, something typical for primitive species. Tamarins like these are closely related to the marmoset. They're also great climbers and can drop long distances without being hurt. As much as 15 meters has been observed. The tamarind is partly nocturnal and feeds mainly on fruit, eggs, and insects. Danger is always around the corner. The bigger animals in the rainforest, like the emerald tree burr, consider the small mammals as lunch. The emerald tree burr can grow to a length of more than 2 meters, and like the monkey, is an accomplished climber. It too is equipped with a prehensile tail, which it uses to good effect when moving up trees. This marmoset is curious, but realizes the danger just in time. If it is caught, the burr can squeeze the life out of a small monkey in seconds and swallow it whole. Marmosets depend mainly on their eyes for safety, and here it spots an even bigger, though possibly less dangerous predator, the iguana. This is a monster more than 1 meter long with very sharp claws. Fortunately, it is mainly vegetarian, but if it feels cornered, it can be a vicious fighter, dealing deadly blows with its strong tail. The iguana may look like it doesn't belong in the trees, but it does. Though it will never develop the skills of the New World monkeys. Iguanas can be found all over South and Central America. As mentioned earlier, the monkeys of the rainforest are not very visible, and compared to the wildlife of the Old World, not that much is known about them. Nevertheless, they are equally as fascinating, especially when seen displaying their marvelous acrobatic skills at the top of the trees. Leaving the rainforest of South America, it is only a short trip across the Caribbean Sea to Florida in the southern United States. The sea along the coast of Florida is rich with wildlife and is one of the few places where the large manatee can still be found. This sea cow grows to about 4 meters in length and often weighs more than 900 kilograms. It is herbivorous and used to be found throughout the world. The manatee is a gentle animal with no real enemies except man, who is therefore showing very little respect, as the manatee is considered to be the model for the myth of the mermaid, though this does take some imagination. Friendly it may be, but pretty it is not. The water close to the coast is brackish, which means a mixture of salt and fresh water. And here is a most peculiar forest, the mangrove forest. The mangrove tree grows straight out of the water, supported by a large network of roots. By catching debris, these roots, along with the hanging branches, will slowly help build up soil around the trees, creating nature's own homemade islands, which support a whole marine environment. This crab is burying itself in the fallen mangrove leaves, which serve as food for a variety of small invertebrates, very primitive animals, that in turn become nourishment for the wading birds. The large American crocodile can also be found here. Growing to a length of more than 6 meters, it is often bigger than even the Nile crocodile. This crocodile, now quite rare, prefers salt water as long as it is warm. It is never found further north than here, but can be seen as far south as Venezuela and South America. Since alligators are also native to this region, it is the only place where crocodiles and alligators are found together. Underneath the surface lives a multitude of animals, including the lobster. And this strange fellow, the seahorse. It is a true fish, despite its unconventional swimming style. It lives in this eel grass close to the bottom, as does an even stranger animal, the sea anemone. The sea anemone has hundreds of poisonous tentacles, and if a seahorse should inadvertently brush against them, it would be stunned by the poison, then killed and digested over a few days. There are larger predators under the surface than the sea anemone, such as this sand shark. This is an ocean-going shark, but can occasionally be found close to land in deep water pockets. They mainly eat fish, but have also been known to attack people. Behind the mangroves is the beginning of the Florida Everglades, famous for its bird life. Here the northern white pelicans join the local brown pelicans in large colonies. The white pelican is only in Florida for the winter. It is larger than the local brown variety and weighs as much as 10 kilograms. With a wingspan of almost 3 meters, it is one of the world's largest flying birds, as well as being an accomplished fisherman. The pelican seeks out its prey on the wing. It then swoops down and gathers the fish in its pouch, pops up to the surface, and swallows the prey whole, even when harassed by a more than annoying seagull. But then seagulls are always a bit of a pest. It does not take very long to catch the 2 to 3 kilograms of fish the pelican needs daily. And even if a bit extra is needed for chicks back at the nest, the return flight is not delayed that much. The pelican chicks, left in the sun, vibrate their throats to cool down, but are quite prepared to give it a rest when the adult bird arrives with their eagerly awaited lunch. This youngster must be very hungry or extremely greedy, as it almost disappears down the adult bird's throat. Even animal parents have to have a boundless amount of patience. The real reason for this way of feeding the chicks is that the pelican never flies with fish in the pouch. First, it swallows the food, and then back at the nest regurgitates it, which means bringing the food up from the stomach. Though the pelican can now be seen in some numbers, it was recently almost wiped out by DDT, a poisonous pesticide. The frigate bird is found at tropical coasts nearly all over the world. Earlier in this series, we saw it in Hawaii. These outstanding flyers have also made the Everglades their home. Their flying skills enable them to swoop down and steal food from other birds, yet they can hardly walk once they have landed. The trees of the cypress swamp also grow with their roots submerged in water, and the raccoon that lives here has to be quite agile to avoid getting its feet wet. The raccoon lives throughout North America, from the temperate north to the subtropical south, as does this sleepy-looking barn owl. Other animals are more particular to this semi-tropical area, like the Louisiana heron, the fine-feathered purple gamanure, now unfortunately quite rare, and the mossback turtle, so called because of its tendency to grow moss on its back, and many, many more creatures which take advantage of the rich food supply of the swamps. Perched in an advantageous position on top of a branch is the osprey, a fish hawk that will have to compete here with the anhinga, another accomplished fisherman, often observed hanging its wings out to dry after the day's dives. These waters are also the natural habitat of the alligator. It can survive much further north than the crocodile, even in temperate climates. The alligator is the biggest predator here, and rather fond of herons, who constantly have to be alert as the alligator does a good job resembling a floating log. But the herons and this snowy egret are aware of the danger and will stay out of harm's way. This common egret is much larger than the snowy variety. It has been hunted almost out of existence by man, eager for its feathers, but will still serve as dinner for a hungry alligator. This adult egret, feeding its chicks, has chosen an apparently dangerous place for its nest. It is built right on top of the alligator's pool. This is, however, a calculated risk, as the alligator serves as a deterrent for other predators, such as the raccoon. But nothing is for nothing. This egret got too close and had to pay the ultimate price. The alligator grows to about 4 to 5 meters, but despite its size, rarely attacks man. They do, nevertheless, fight fiercely amongst each other. This heron has the best view in the house, while the fight for territory is raging. These large reptiles are very jealous of their boundaries, and if an alligator can't have its hunting area left in peace, there is bound to be trouble. Even when the alligators are otherwise engaged, the egret is not completely safe. The diamond-backed rattlesnake can grow to a length of 2.5 meters and is the most dangerous snake in North America. There is really only one solution to the problem: to get away as quickly as possible and let the snake find another, less careful prey. During the mating season, the alligator sounds off its own very special rutting call. The loud noise sets off a vibration on its back that creates an effect popularly called water dancing. Like all reptiles, the alligator lays eggs, and when the time has come, the female will select a sunny river bank where she can bury her eggs in a nest of old leaves. Raccoons will happily eat alligator eggs, but the mother is very protective and has no trouble scaring this impertinent thief out of its wits. And with the alligator in this fierce mood, it may be good politics for this osprey to stay where it is. Reptiles can't control their body heat like mammals, so when the sun gets too hot, the alligator is forced to submerge itself in water and leave the eggs alone. The raccoon is not slow to take advantage of the absent mother. Raccoons are particularly fond of alligator eggs and destroy many nests, but it is all part of nature's balance. The strong predator is held in check by the smaller predator. But fortunately, some eggs will always survive. And after about 1 month's incubation, these eggs start to hatch, and another litter of baby alligators can take their first hesitant steps into a new world. These marshes are the first home for the newly hatched alligators, where they can swim, feed, and hopefully grow to their full and impressive maturity. In the Everglades, there are only 2 seasons, wet and dry. In the dry season, as little as 1% of the water remains, making life difficult for the wildlife that depends on this particular environment. But now the role of the alligator is partly reversed, as this great predator becomes the savior of many species, including one of its favorite victims, the heron. Since the alligator must keep cool, it digs deeper into its pool as the water retreats in the dry season. They create what are popularly known as gator holes, which help keep many animals, as well as the alligator, alive during these trying times. If the alligator gets angry when its hunting territory is invaded, then it is nothing compared to its outrage if some impertinent competitor tries to invade its water hole. That really is just not on. From Florida, it is only a comparatively short trip to the central part of the United States, one of the many places where the badger can be found. The badger is a member of the weasel family and makes its home on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. It is a predator and as such considered one of the fiercest fighters around. Badgers mainly feed on small mammals like field mice, prairie dogs, and rabbits. The only real enemy the badger has is man, but even so, it is often found close to farms, preying on rodents which are in great supply. Though this dog, a Rhodesian Ridgeback, is bred to hunt lions, there is no reason to be nervous for the sake of the badger. It is more than capable of looking after itself. During the last century in Europe, it was a popular sport to send packs of dogs burrowing for badgers and then place bets on the outcome. This is actually where the word badgering comes from. The dog is constantly trying to get behind the badger in order to grab its neck. But the badger is as cagey as it is swift and strong, and it can inflict very serious injuries with its incredibly strong teeth. The fight can carry on for a long time. But one thing is certain, it won't be the badger that gives up first. After all, it is fighting for its life. The dog's circle around the badger is getting larger and larger. It just could be that its enthusiasm for the fight is diminishing, since it hasn't been very successful so far. Considering the total lack of progress, it has to be said that this poor dog is displaying a dedication far beyond the call of duty. Or maybe is just plain stupid and can't see that this fight will lead absolutely nowhere. Finally, as could be expected, the dog has had enough of this uneven fight and must slink away humiliated, seen off by a very angry badger. When looking for food, the badger moves very purposefully towards its intended victim, its short legs moving rapidly and economically. It has spotted a field mouse, one of the badger's favorite prey. During a chase, the badger can move extremely fast in short spurts, its speed making it possible to catch rabbits and even the occasional bird. The badger does not waste time playing with its prey. It is eaten immediately and swiftly. Since the badger has quite poor eyesight, it is not capable of stalking its prey. It has to rely on acute hearing and a well-developed sense of smell to compensate for this lack of vision. There are species of badgers ranging from Europe to tropical Asia and North America, but as it mainly lives underground, it is rarely seen, even in areas where it is common. The wedge-shaped head and powerful 5-centimeter claws make the badger an accomplished digger. Its claws are also useful for other purposes, including catching and manipulating its prey. But it is when digging that these handy tools really come into their own. Badgers can outdig any other animal, even moles. If it is under threat, it can use all 4 feet to disappear underground in just a few seconds. It mainly digs to catch prey living underground and to excavate for its burrow. Looking at this badger, it appears very industrious, but if it comes across an already existing hole, it will often use that in preference to all this hard labor. It is no wonder the badger is considered to be quite an intelligent animal. On the badger's journey across the plain, it will naturally encounter many of the other inhabitants like these majestic bisons. And this chirpy little rodent, the prairie dog. There was a time when bisons could be counted in millions, but systematic hunting with everything from cannons to machine guns almost completely wiped out this now rare animal. Thanks to a restocking program, the prairie dog can again watch as the young bulls duel for their position in the herd. It is an impressive battle, with each contestant weighing in at about 1 ton. The badger has given birth to 2 cubs, who will leave the burrow when they are weaned at about 8 weeks. They immediately start the play that will strengthen them for the future, enabling them to hunt for prey like this prairie dog. They are not too proficient as yet. While the 2 youngsters dig furiously, lunch is escaping through a conveniently located back door. This hunt has to be abandoned, to the delight of the prairie dog, now feeling secure in his hole. Why waste time on looking for food if one can play instead? The problem for the badger can't be that there aren't enough prairie dogs. Indeed, the plain is rife with them, as can be seen in this prairie dog city. The prairie dog lives in large communities, sometimes covering thousands of square kilometers. In the past, such cities have been known to house more than 1 billion individuals. The prairie dog has to be aware of many dangers, not least the coyote. When it is on the prowl, the prairie dogs are very nervous indeed. And to make matters worse, there is a badger right behind. The badger often hunts with the coyote. While the badger digs for the prey, the coyote patiently waits at the rear entrance to take up the chase in case the prairie dog should try to escape that way. If the badger catches the prey in the burrow, it will eat it right there. But if it gets away, it will be the coyote that benefits from the hunt. The prairie dog has very sharp teeth and can hold off an enemy for some time, but the odds are just too big and the end result is inevitable. The coyote won't share the prey with the badger, so it looks like a somewhat uneven partnership. The young badgers have had no luck catching a prey, but they have found the carcass of a deer left behind by another hunter. The badger does not mind scavenging if no game is readily available, particularly if one is also inexperienced in the art of hunting. The youngsters decide to drag the carcass back to their burrows, and at first, cooperation appears to be the order of the day. But this harmony soon ends when they can't decide which way to go and who is the boss. Finally, it gets very silly when they try to get one carcass into two burrows. When winter arrives, the badgers normally move to lower-lying country. But these two inexperienced adolescents have been caught out, and now it's too late to migrate. The badger does not actually hibernate. It will build up a layer of fat during the autumn and then stay protected in burrows during the coldest spells, only venturing out on mild days. These two have decided not to follow the rules and are out hunting rabbits in the snow. Fortunately, with success this time. The coyote stays active all winter and is dependent on available game. Having to hunt through the snow does mean lean times, so the prairie dog is even more in demand at this time of year. The badgers continue fighting over the rabbit. They really are too old to remain together and should split up in the spring. A hawk overhead signals that spring is coming back to the plains, and contrary to normal badger behavior, the youngsters are still together. At least they face danger together. They have never seen a snake before, and fortunately this bull snake isn't poisonous, but had it been a rattlesnake, the outcome could have been disastrous. This badger has trapped a mouse, but can't get to it no matter how hard it tries, even with the help of its sibling. It is both confused and annoyed. Eventually, they manage to chase the mouse out into the open, and now it can be caught and eaten. A small field mouse is not much of a meal for a hungry badger, but there just might be more where that came from. Not all badgers have to make do with just snacks. This one, like the twins last summer, has found the carcass of an elk. It is large enough to guarantee food for a considerable period of time. Since the carcass is much too big to drag back to the burrow, the badger will dig a new burrow beneath the carcass. This becomes a home with a larder. Once there, the badger may not emerge for several days, and it will fiercely protect the kill from any and all intruders, even the mountain lion. The mountain lion is very fond of elk, but getting to it can prove to be quite a problem. The badger is certainly not going to give up his food supply without a struggle. Like the skunk, the badger has scent glands that are very unpleasant to others. Since the badger is also a mean fighter, the mountain lion decides to retreat, choosing not to fight for what is their world as well as our world.